Jen Psaki. You know you're in trouble, and that seems. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. How are my peeps doing today? I trust everybody's doing fine. Welcome aboard. Let's see who was the first one to clock in on the chat today. It seems like that person is Patrick Magner saying meow. We also have in the house Yvette Avery Herod. Beautiful Yvette from Atlanta, Georgia. Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, New York. Edward Peña from Houston, Texas. Y lo escribiste perfectamente esta vez, mi hermano, con la ñ. And we also have Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. We have Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. We have, para ver, who else is in the house? And Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. And as more people come in, whenever I see them, I'll give them the shout out. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Let's see what we've got here. It seems like it just got, okay. Jay Ray with a roar from Houston, Texas. How you doing, brother Ray? Great to see you here. Lee the Bearcat says new CEO is good for companies. I agree, don't you? All right, let's see what we got here. Let me scroll back up to the top to see if anybody has anything that they want me to read. Paul Fleming says the Department of Defense said that in the rare cases it may have deliberately or mistakenly removed some web pages in efforts to eliminate DEI content after a tribute to Jackie Robinson was scrubbed from its website. No, they are just a bunch of, I hate to put it this way, but we can't sugarcoat it. These are white supremacists that simply do not want to acknowledge that the United States of America is a country of all people where all people contribute. Everybody contributes. They're not only scrubbing those web pages, they're scrubbing web pages from Arlington Arlington Cemetery. They're scrubbing anything that shows people of color or natives that have done anything in this country. These are some evil folks that we have running this country at this point in time. All right, let's see what else we have now. We have as well, para ver. Brit says, does Tesla need a new CEO? Of course. Calls grow for Elon Musk to resign as boss of EV giant amid concerns over ties to Donald Trump and leadership overload. Read more. Here's the deal. I want to get this straight to you all. Tesla isn't failing because of Elon Musk's association to Donald Trump. Tesla is failing because they make a substandard electric car that has not changed with time. Tesla is failing because it's not innovative. Tesla is failing because it's a lousy company. The price to earnings ratio has never reflected what that company really represented. It never did. It was always a company based on welfare. While China and those guys subsidized the making of their cars, we went ahead and gave Tesla, meaning Elon Musk, welfare to build his electric car. And at the same time, the welfare recipient, the welfare queen, Elon Musk, now he wants to try to take away earned benefits from the American citizenry. He wants to make life more difficult for the American citizenry. He is nothing more than a spoiled guy with a silver spoon in his mouth who has never worked for anything. He has been given capital from the inception of his life because he was born into it. And as they try to call him a boy genius, he's nothing more than a business person that was very able at using a capitalist system that rewards those who have capital and not those who have worth, intellect, or workability. Think about that. But we got to reframe the messaging that we give because we somehow have a tendency ourselves, too many of us have a tendency to give much more notion to these charlatanes than deserving. All right, continuing. Paul Fleming says, Eric, replying to Eric, hey, it's an entitlement that's earned. We pay into the system. It's not an entitlement. It's an earned benefit. I guarantee you, when you reach the age of retirement, you can collect your Social Security just like you collect the COVID check. No, no, but look, no, 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 no. Don't even go there, brother Fleming. Don't let them get away with that crap. Social Security is a program that we pay into. I don't even believe we should have Social Security. I believe we should, after people reach retirement age, they should be cared for out of the general funds as a program of our government. We shouldn't have a separate Medicare program. Medicare separate from Medicaid, separate from Social Security. No, we should, whenever, as a member of our society, if we want an efficient, well-run society where you can probably get rid, if Elon Musk wants to really talk about efficiency, let me give you an efficiency. Here's an efficiency. If you are disabled, you fill out some paperwork, and based on your disability, all these services are provided for you. Your government gives you these services. If you are of working age and have a job, you pay into the system, etc., etc., etc. If you lose your job for a particular reason, all these services are afforded you. You fill out the blank, and you know what the government is due to you. And while you're working, what you are due to the government. I mean, easy. We don't have to go through all pay people to spy on you to calculate if you're worth this or not. We could just have one form as a citizen based on your working situation. And then we have laws as well, right? If you're able-bodied person and if you're not working by choice, and listen to this well. If you are not working by choice, meaning you could go out there and get any kind of job to supply, either the government gives you a job, and if for some reason that doesn't pass muster, that you probably also have what we call a basic income, just to make sure you don't die because we're humane. But you know what's the interesting thing? uh, most people want to work. Most people want to go out there and be self sufficient. Most people don't want to live on the dole. The idea that most people want to live on the dole is a myth. It's a myth. All right, let's continue. CNN, Google agreed to pay $28 million dollars to settle a class action lawsuit claiming that it favored white and Asian employees by paying them more and putting them on a higher career track than other workers. You know, whenever we make statements like that, right? We always hear a lot of our people uh, go ahead and talk about, oh, that's not true. That's not true, that your color, your ethnicity doesn't necessarily, they try to make it look like that is a figment of your imagination and that we don't really need DEI. They mislabel DEI, right? DEI doesn't give unqualified people a job. DEI ensures that everybody has the potential of having a job. All right, this is politics done right. Who do I have the honor of speaking with?
You have the honor of speaking with the guy that calls you in the morning a lot. This is
Oh
Tyler
my
Harry.
God, this is Harry. Harry, what's going on? Talk to me.
Well, I just heard on NPR, and I was talking with my friend in Florida earlier, But I just heard on NPR News that in order to, if you're going to get Social Security now, because as you've been talking about lately on your own shows, that they're closing some of the Social Security offices, that people who have disabilities that have Social Security disability and are seeking benefits have to go to their local office and prove that they are eligible for Social Security and can collect benefits.
That is
This
a shame,
is what's getting. Yes,
I am going to talk about that later on, Harry, but you're absolutely right on that. They're trying
I'm
to
angry
destroy.
about this.
I'll tell you what, since you brought up the subject, let me do this. Let me look through my chat here to see how much I need to cover. I tell you what, let me go
Okay.
ahead and finish this chat, and then the video that I was to play this morning, I couldn't because all of you guys kept on calling.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and play
Well,
this
I was
video. But
listening,
oh well, I love you all, so
and
I
I
love
heard
the
what
calls.
Howard. I heard what
Let
Howard said the other morning.
Howard is great. Let's
You
let's
hadn't
talk
heard from me,
later.
but I'll call tomorrow morning.
Thank you,
I'll
Harry. Let's
call in the
talk.
morning too.
Thank you, my
All
brother.
right.
Peace.
Bye bye.
All right, look, guys, and thank you. I love speaking to you guys in person. I simply love it. Let me go ahead and play the first video of the day because it's about 12 minutes or so, and I want you to hear this because this is a very important video. Last night, Martin O'Malley, the former Social Security Administration U.S. Commissioner and former governor as well, gave the best explanation of how Elon Musk is destroying Social Security, but specifically why he's doing it. And it makes a whole lot of sense for us to get this now because there's a lot of work to do before they actually completely, irreversibly damage it for a whole lot of people. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Security Administration is rolling out more sweeping changes. NBC News reports the new acting commissioner outlined his vision for the agency in a memo to the staff, including plans to explore AI and boost anti-fraud efforts to prevent improper payments. The Trump administration and DOJ have claimed there's widespread fraud at the agency. Elon Musk has called it a Ponzi scheme, suggesting it pays out benefits to millions of dead Americans and undocumented immigrants. But for fact's sake, let's tell you the truth. In 2023, Inspector General report found less than 1% of benefits payments between 2015 and 2022 were improper. And most of those payments were overpayments, not payments to dead people or unqualified Americans. Martin O'Malley joins us now. He's the former Social Security Administration Commissioner under President Biden and the former Democratic governor from the great state of Maryland. I am so glad you are here because we would all agree
my honor.
Social Security can be improved, but DOJ and this administration wants to cut 7,000 more jobs. What is that going to do to this agency?
It's absolutely going to crater this agency. In fact, Stephanie, I think Elon Musk and Donald Trump and their DOJ team have probably taken all of the actions or 90% of the actions they need to take that'll guarantee this agency heads into a system collapse. I mean, at first, what you're going to see is a huge exodus. In fact, they're wasting a ton of money paying people for the whole year ahead to leave right now. You're going to see that huge exodus and brain drain from the very people who understand not only how to code the foundational computer language of COBOL, but who understand the architecture and what's stacked up upon it. Then you will see, as we already have started to, intermittent outages of some of those stacks that allow you to process certain types of claims or allow you to go onto the MySSA website and check your own earnings records.
How does any of that solve for waste, fraud, abuse, or inefficiency?
It is the biggest waste of money is taking an agency that's already been reduced by 10 years of House Republican cuts. They're serving more people than ever because of baby boomers like me raising their active beneficiaries to an all-time high, and yet their staffing is at a 50-year low. So that's why this hits them at such a critical time. I was honored to be there last year. I watched those dedicated public servants turn that leaking battleship on a dime, but it's only this far above the waterline. And after these intermittent outages, or at the same time, you're going to see every wait time go in the wrong direction after it being made to go in the right direction last year. People are going to wait longer in the field offices. People are going to wait longer on the 800 number. They're going to wait longer for initial disability determinations, which, oh, by the way, more Americans die now waiting for that initial disability determination than ever before. Ultimately, these things are all going to cascade and going to result in an interruption of benefits. How soon that will happen, I don't exactly know, but I believe it'll be in the next 90 days. How long will it last?
Why do they want to do this? I'm pretty sure they know senior citizens vote.
And they've also been warned. Very recently, there was an internal memo saying, wait a minute, this is by the people they haven't already fired. I mean, they replaced a very capable acting commissioner because she dared to stand up and say to this fourth level promotee, this guy who admitted online that he shared information with Doge and was put on administrative leave because of violating agency policy. I believe that they need to agency and take away its capacity to serve the public in order to turn the public against it. In other words, Stephanie, I believe they want to wreck it so that they can rob it. What they want to do with the $2.7 trillion that was built up in the reserves to cover that baby boomer generation, I don't know. But I do know that all of the actions they are taking are, by any objective person looking at it, these are things that are going to crater the agency and make it impossible for them to serve the public well.
Elon Musk also likes to claim, falsely, that Social Security is a way for Democrats to make payments to undocumented immigrants. But the truth is, undocumented immigrants do not collect Social Security. They do, however, pay billions into it every single year. Okay. They're actually subsidizing it for the rest of Americans who collect it.
And, you know, shame on us. And I say this as a Democrat. They put a lot of money behind this lie in a lot of the swing states. I was always visiting states, and people showed me the mailers that they were sending out and that they were receiving at home. And they were saying, candidate Harris wants to let more illegal immigrants in to bankrupt your Social Security. And the truth is, people working here out of legal status, those so-called illegal immigrants, pay in $22 billion a year for you and me. That they'll never $22 billion a year. There's lots of big lies. And, you know, Social Security, the customer service challenges can be easily solved. But you have to let this agency operate at the traditional 1.2% overhead to benefits that they did every year until about 10 years ago when they started getting cut. And the so-called solvency crisis that's coming up in 2035, also a totally solvable problem. You just remove the earning cap on the highest earners, and that will extend the trust fund that was built up intentionally to cover the baby boomers. There's a lot of lies being told about Social Security, and this, like cratering their ability to serve the public, is all about discrediting the agency. And they need to do that in order to steal from the agency. So the American people, the only thing that's going to save us is if the democracy rises up to stop the steal of their Social Security benefits. So a woman asked me at a town hall just now with Congressman Panetta that I did on the phone before coming up here. She said, well, if they crater the agency in order to liquidate it and to get the trust fund, I'm still going to get back the money that I put in.
Sister.
It's not the way, that's not the way it works. Well, Social Security last year paid out $1.4 trillion in benefits, and they were paid for by $1.3 trillion from all of us that are still working in the economy. And then they took the difference from that trust fund as it was designed to, and why they built up the surplus. So the reason why the democracy needs to stop this steal is because the only way you're ever going to get back all the credits you earned in Social Security is to keep the co-presidency from stealing Social Security and cratering its ability to serve you, your kids, and your grandkids.
So as you can see, this isn't rocket science. We always knew Donald Trump, as well as Steve Bannon, and all the right-wing sycophants, as well as the billionaires controlling Project 2025, they told us what they were going to do. They had it written down what they were going to do. The idea is to destroy the entire social safety net, and wherever government is going to be re-entered, well, you know, you have the private sector at a cost solve the problem. Of course, the private sector in government programs will always be more expensive than if the government did it itself. That's not conjecture. That is not a question. That's a statement of mathematical fact. Now, here is the thing. The people who voted for Trump, many of them believed that Trump and MAGA would be going after, even if they went after Social Security, it would be to go after those undeserving ones. It would be to go over the caricature of who's actually getting support from the government. Unfortunately, when you live in a fantasy, when you live in a lie, and that lie is then effectuated through the policies created by the liar, the ones that suffer or the ones that are suffering will pretty much be you, the ones who voted and believed in the crook that you elected. Because you see, those of us who voted correctly, those of us who made a sensible, calculated vote based on what we knew factually, we were prepared, or we are prepared in the event that these nuts get through what they're going to do. Many are preparing for the worst. But for those of you who thought you were getting a president who cared about you, we have to come to the conclusion and realize that this man, along with all the billionaires, most of the wealthy, they don't give a hoot about you. In fact, remember how those people who are wealthy developed their money. They developed their monies in a system that abstracts the extraction of the wealth of everybody else. I want you to understand that. It's the economic system abstracts the way they extract the wealth from all of you. And it's that abstraction that allows the gullible, or it's the abstraction of doing these things that allow the gullible to go ahead and say, you know what, I am going to have faith in these guys. Well, like I've been saying behind a lot of these videos, it is not irreparable. It's not a fatal sin to have made a mistake, to have made a bad vote. What is fatal, what is the real sin is after having the facts in hand, not doing utterly what is necessary to make sure that those charlatans aren't able to execute the disaster that they're about to unleash on most Americans. And you know what? Only united, only working together can we actually stop them. I vote for working together to stop them. Accept that many have made a mistake. Mistake isn't fatal yet for most Americans. Work together and solve the problem. Go to your congressperson, let them know you want Elon Musk dumped and you want nothing done to your Social Security, neither your Social Security payments or the machinations that's going on in the Social Security House right now. You don't want people laid off. You want, in fact, people hired to make things more efficient. It is imperative that we get moving on this, folks. It is imperative that we get moving on this. Absolutely so. Patrick Magner, the idea that someone is so brainwashed and absent, thinking they would argue on behalf of those who are stealing from us is mind-boggling. That is what indoctrination looks like. That is what being a member of a cult looks like. There are two people that vote for Trump: the cult and those who are willing to take the short-term gains from him destroying the economy. And there will be short-term gains for few, a very small few, from the destruction of the economy, which he's effecting right this minute. Paul Fleming says Canada announced today that they were going to buy a radar system from Australia that was going to go to the US, but now will be going to Canada instead. The radar is called JORN, meaning Jindali Over the Horizon Radar. This is a $6.5 billion purchase. The radar is capable of detecting any plane and all ships from a greater distance and see over the horizon. The US wanted this system very badly. Midas Touch just now reported on this, but it's even worse. Let me give you two other stories. Carla Slim was going to use Starlink in its global network. And once Elon Musk sent out one of his childish, toddlerish tweets, he doesn't have a lot of stairs. What you think happened? Carla Slim canceled the contract worth several $billion. That's only one thing. Let me tell you others. Right now, Donald Trump is talking about invading Panama and all of that and doesn't want China owning ports in Panama and all that sort of stuff, the country of my origin. Well, guess what they forgot to talk about? That right this minute, there's a lot of investments now from China in Mexico building large container ports that takes 5 days off of ship travel across, in other words, bypassing the canal and going through Mexico, saving 5 days. They're creating an infrastructure to do this. Okay, yes, this sounds like Harry.
This is Harry again. Yeah, I was just wondering, like this, when you played that video and you were talking about the fraud, and they talked about that on NPR that they have to prove this to be fraud, and that guy is correct that people are gonna be waiting in lines longer. It's gonna take longer to prove who they are and to get their checks. I was wondering, will this be struck down in the courts? Can they fight Elon Musk and Donald Trump in the courts the way they're fighting them on USAID, because that was struck down in the lower courts. And as you know, Trump said that stuff about
I got you, Harry. Brother Harry, I got you. Let me tell you what I think. My hunch tells me that this isn't something that can be struck down in court. It has to be something that Congress forces the president to do. In other words, given that he's the executive, they tell him how to spend money. I think he can be a terrible executive, like any executives can be. He can be terrible, but they can order him with the purse. When they write the law, they can say you must open more offices and you must fund them this way. But they have to write the law that way. In other words, not leave it up for interpretation. All right?
Okay, so they'll have to do it through Congress, and then hopefully we can get around this that way.
Now there are technical ways they could get around it. Wait, hold on a second. There's a technical way that the courts can get around it, and that is to say that they are not by closing these offices, they're not able to provide the services that they're supposed to provide by law. But that's a harder reach, and that's a harder reach, but it can. But thank you, Harry, for calling, and I love that you
so we're gonna have to do it, my brother.
Right. Thank you, brother.
All right, call you tomorrow.
All right. Anyway, folks, let me continue reading some of what you guys have said here. J. Ray says, Brother Harry, pleasant surprise hearing you at this time of the day. I know, it's beautiful hearing Harry's voice in the afternoon. Let's see what else we have. Breach says sarcastically, I lost it. Breeze. Michael, yes, and it says sarcastically, but still not sure what that was about. I'm scrolling down to see, in case you missed it. So when they do it to a Tesla dealership, it's really bad. But when they do it to the halls of Congress, pardon them. Is that the position? I love that analogy that you just gave there, Paul Fleming. I love that analogy, Paul Fleming. We have the one and only Patrick Magner on the line. Brother Patrick Magner, talk to me.
I want to tell Harry thanks for calling in, and I'm glad that he's on at 3 o'clock. I always like hearing from him. I wanted to touch on Social Security since we talked about that for a little bit.
Before you touch on that, before you touch on that, I want to give you a big thank you. You tickled me earlier today. And I went ahead and hold 1 second. I got to get another call in here as well. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. Do I have both Harry and do I have both Magner and Ray on the call right now?
You do.
Ray, great, great.
Yeah,
And
Patrick.
Magner. Okay, Patrick, you're still there. All right, Patrick. I went and looked
Ray.
up I went and looked up the call, or rather the movie you told me about. And as I was blogging my last blog, right, my second to last blog, I watched it. The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, 2002. I had not seen that one. Everybody needs to watch that. I found it on YouTube. It's important to show the real stuff about Hugo Chavez. Thank you for that heads up. But go ahead and say what you want to say, brother.
Yeah, he was one of the ones that helped me understand that socialism was a good thing. I didn't realize it the first 20 years of my life, and he was a very good person. I mean,
yes,
he made a few mistakes. I mean, he's a good person. He was. Rest in peace. I mean, he did a lot of good. He cut child mortality by half.
Yes.
But I appreciate you taking the time out to watch that.
Patrick, I had to because I started watching it, and as soon as I turned it on, it simply attached. It was like a magnet. And what that documentary did is show you certain things that we've been talking about all the times, like why all the profits from drilling off public lands go into corporations and not into the public coffers, things like that. And he realized that, he fixed that, and the media destroyed. If you want to know what destroyed Venezuela, it's the media. It's the lying media that destroyed by creating alternate state of realities, just like it's this Fox News and others are destroying America right now. But tell me what you called in for. I just wanted to mention that, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. I wanted to touch on Social Security, and I want to remind everybody that Doge and Elon Musk are the ones that are trying to say that they're increasing efficiency and getting rid of waste. And I mean, we all know that that's BS. But what I want to point out to everybody that I researched over the last couple of days was the Social Security Administration hasn't really added to its staff in almost 4 decades, almost 40 years. And what has been happening to the population in the United States in the last 40 years? I think it's doubled twice or close to that.
Yeah, it's not doubled twice, but it's close, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the Social Security office, without additional inputs and without increasing the number of individuals, has been able to keep up a 99% accuracy rate the growing population of the United States. And so, if with the same number of people you can service almost twice as many people, how is that not growing in efficiency?
Thank you. But wait, let me give you worse about that, because you spoke about that in terms of Social Security. Let me give it to you in terms of American workers. Okay? In terms of American workers, productivity has gone through the roof, but wages have been stagnant. If you take a graph and subtract the gains from productivity minus the wages of Americans, that explains income and wealth inequality to the nth degree right there. And many people don't realize that. Thank you for bringing that up in the realm of Social Security, but it also applies in productivity of the American worker, who are the hardest workers on the planet. Continue, Patrick. I tell you what, Patrick, hold your thought. Let's bring Ray into the conversation. Ray, what you want to add?
Yes, brothers. Thank you. And I also want to say thank you to Brother Harry for calling, man. Like I say, I appreciate hearing you. I didn't get to hear you this morning, but one thing I wanted to say in relation to what you were saying earlier, I think, like Berto, me and you, we have to really take ownership and try to just really normalize not villainizing the ism, that being socialism and, the evil word, communism. Communism. Let's just soak in that for a minute. Because what is communism? It's a society for the community. That's basically what it is. but they villainize everything because of certain mistakes by certain leadership. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being, you know what? From this point on, I feel like if somebody calls you a communist, if you believe in anything communist, I say, you know what? They got some good ideas. Just like Trump and the neo-Nazis, they are pretty much okaying all of the neo-Nazi policy that they are doing. And they're saying, oh, it's not good, like Elon Musk. It wasn't a Nazi salute. Let's just do what we want to do and forget what they call it if it's helping people. Second
Thank
thing.
you. Wait. Hold on. Wait. You made a very important point that I think people need to learn. Labels, and I'm going to change some of your words. Labels create issues. If you concentrate on the words communism as you just did, or socialism as the way Brother Patrick just did, it makes people concentrate on those words and not the deeds. So you made a very important point, Ray, in pointing out, like, let's take command of what we want to do for people. Call it whatever you want to call it. These are the positive things we want to do for people and our economy. Thank you for pointing that out. Continue.
Period. And I was listening to a podcast with the Bulwark, and this guy Scott Galloway, he's somewhat of a neoliberal, but he's kind of turned progressive. And
yeah,
he's a professor. Yeah, so
he's a professor at New York. Yeah.
So he said something, and I want to make sure I didn't mince his words because this is very important. He said, he's rich, so he could, whatever happens in this country, he could jump over to Milan or, Dubai if he wants to. But the bottom line is, and I quote, rights and democracy have become purely a function of how wealthy you are in America. The wealthiest 1% are protected by the law, but they're not bound by it. And the bottom 99% are bound by the law, but not protected by it. And that in itself is incredibly upsetting. But the most powerful country is the United States, and that's what we have going on. And I just wanted to throw that out there because that was very present what he said.
And
we see that with Elon Musk right now.
Yeah, there is in other words, look, Elon Musk purportedly he takes a lot of drugs, ketamine and all these other drugs that he takes, right? He's always high from what we understand. That word has been out there. Yet nobody says anything about it, right? But if you get a brother on the streets in Appalachia or the ghettos or the barrios, they go to jail. That's what happens. So you're absolutely right, but it goes a bit further. Let me tell you something else about the law. Why the corollary to what you just said. They've done studies that said the following. Let's say the 90%, the bottom 90%, there is this particular policy they want. And let's say there's a 1% that says there's this particular policy that they want. They've proven that 3 to 6%, I don't remember the percentage, of what the masses want get executed. But while what the rich wants, just about all of it gets placed into policy. That is just how the system is. But it's that way because of something I think we spoke about this morning. We have to take command of our government. There's this young man that called in. I'm going to cut that piece of the video later. That called in why he preferred large corporations over large government. And I don't know, Patrick, I think you were there when he called. He then couldn't.
Yeah, I called back.
I need to hear that.
Right. I'm going to cut it out and put it as a blog. But what happens is, and I was very nice to the guy, but he got tripped up and there was nothing, Patrick could have handled that just fine. But he simply could not answer the question. He was just basing his statements on ideology. I'm going to place that and play it tomorrow on the program. Continue, Patrick.
Another question I wanted to ask that guy was, well, corporations go through hostile takeovers. So if we're gonna have our government run by corporations, what happens when there's a hostile takeover? That's a huge question to ask.
Well, actually, you nailed it right there, right? Because, Patrick, what we have right now is the hostile takeover of the United States government by rich people. If you honestly look at it, we have Elon Musk in Doge destroying government to look the way he wants it to look. That's what's happening. You just nailed it. I want to give a big shout out to Chuck Pinacchio. Chuck Pinacchio is one of our great supporters, and one pair state. He is looking and trying his best to get single payer starting at the state level and moving on to the national level. Thank you, Chuck Pinacchio, for all the work you are doing and continue to do as you lobby in Washington, D.C. Your work is very important. And for those of you that are writing that I haven't reached out yet, rest assured I'll be reading your comments. Anything else you want to add before we move on? Both Ray, anything else you want to add?
No, I'll just keep on listening, but I definitely want to hear about that brother saying that corporation, because that clearly shows the level of brainwashing that's being handed out in this country. But I'll keep listening. I have nothing else.
Patrick, anything else you want to add before we move to the last video?
Yeah. Ray had a good call, and I want to briefly touch on two things. He talked about how the police are two different things for two different classes of people. The police have on the side of their car to protect and serve. That's not it at all. It's to keep you in your place. That's what they do. And then he also touched on isms. Yeah, he touched on isms, and he talked about communism. I'd like to talk about Marxism just for a second. Marxism started, I think he started writing in 1830s or something like that, and he was an economist. He wasn't really political, but he saw suffering happening around him, and he wanted to see how he could alleviate that or get away from it. And his writings have been around for 200 years now. They survived for 200 years. There's got to be some truth in that, and the fact that people want to scare you from reading that is an issue. So I'll leave it at that. And again,
that is why. Let me just say this, Patrick. That is why I uphold Richard Wolff, because Richard Wolff doesn't let anybody get to play that game. He goes out and he tells it like it is, and the formulas that he puts out correctly ascribe what's happening in society today. And you're absolutely right. But I want to take up a little bit about Ray, and I don't use the word socialism, Marxism, and all the isms much anymore, just so that people listen, right? Because once you, as you know, Ray kind of illustrated that once you point those words out, you have to start getting into further argument. But let's talk about that later. I want to get the other video going, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. All right, I want to give a big salute to somebody I hadn't seen before, M26PT2, welcome aboard. Stagan Bergen Creek, welcome aboard. And Mike Cisak, welcome aboard. Who else is in the house that I've missed? If I've missed you, forgive me. But let's go ahead and get to the last video, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's go right now. When you lose Jen Psaki, you know you're in trouble, and that seems to be where Chuck Schumer is at right now, and I am in 100% agreement with her. Of course, maybe Jen Psaki should have pointed that out as well with Mr. Biden, with former President Biden. But anyhow, she's absolutely right. I want you to listen to her take on the shutdown and her take about Schumer, and then we'll take it on the other side.
On a Sunday morning back in 2019, Chuck Schumer held a press conference on what may not sound like a very pressing issue, research into honeybees.
No one quite knows why so many bee colonies are dying off.
Scientists have a number of theories, but their research, according to New York Senator Chuck Schumer, may be jeopardized by a cut in funding for scientific data that the U.S. Department of Agriculture collects on bee colonies.
It could be that the pesticide industry, or the company that makes these pesticides, has gotten to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We don't know which of them it is. We do know one thing. We need this money restored.
It may seem like a little thing, the bee issue, but as a senator for the past quarter century, Schumer's been all about effectively magnifying the little things, holding press conferences to stop robocalls to seniors or to deregulate canned wine. There was also the time he warned of the dangers of tasty-looking Tide detergent pods. A full 6 years, by the way, before teens launched a viral challenge to eat the tasty little Tide pods. My point is that Schumer was an absolute master at drawing attention to issues big and small, all the time. He was known as the man who invented the Sunday presser, showing how to dominate the Monday headlines. The joke in Washington was the most dangerous place here was between him and a camera. He always knew how to get things done in Washington, too. I mean, in 26 years as a senator, including 9 years as the Democratic leader, he helped pass and protect Obamacare, as well as background checks on gun sales. He shepherded all of Joe Biden's major bills through the Senate, and he raised tens of millions of dollars for Democratic candidates, many of whom he recruited as majority leader. But when the once notoriously aggressive senator who invented the Sunday presser was asked by the New York Times this weekend about whether Democrats' media strategy was inauthentic and outdated, part of his answer kind of told you everything you needed to know. Here's what he said. We had like 60 influencers at the State of the Union, and they went on all the social media. According to the people who tell me, because I get all these reports, it had millions and millions of views. Now, repeatedly saying the social media, of course, is its own dead giveaway. I get all these reports about information that is readily available to literally anyone who has ever posted on any of these platforms. That's the other one. Not exactly authentic or modern. And when Schumer was asked why he was the right person to lead the Democrats right now, his answer was basically that he'd done it before. Here's the thing. Michael Jordan was also the best basketball player of all time. But would he be starting for the Bulls this week? I think we know the answer to that one. Look, experience is a good thing. It's important. But seniority and keeping people in charge simply because they have done it before should not be the only thing. In fact, doing things the way they have always been done is not working. Case in point, Schumer backed down from a government shutdown threat and helped Republicans pass their funding bill last week. His argument was that a shutdown would make it harder to resist Trump's takeover of the government. They're taking over the government. They're running the government. They're dismantling the government, despite this. And in the process, he also gave up all their leverage. And Republican leaders, including Trump, didn't have to pay any price. I mean, Trump even thanked Schumer for doing the right thing. He thanked him. Literally, that was his quote, for doing the right thing. Chuck Schumer was a hell of a majority leader in his prime. I grew up in politics when he was majority leader, when he was the aggressive senator, when he was the aggressive member of Congress who was dominating media coverage, arm-twisting Republicans and members of his own party, and raising an absolute boatload of money for Democrats. But he is not in his prime. The Republican Party is not the party of McCain or Romney or even George W. Bush. Schumer's own party is so mad at him that he had to cancel his own book tour over the backlash. And the social media, not the Sunday press conference, is actually how the majority of people communicate and consume news these days. So where does that leave the Democrats these days? Well, feels to me like instead of just making tweaks to the margins of the message, which by the way is important too, maybe it's time to spend more time to throwing out the hard copy of the old playbook and start thinking about new messengers.
Here is the deal. A responsible party, a responsible leader would always ensure that they have a bench that is primed to move to the next level. And that is severely lacking right now in the Democratic Party. Because we have very smart young people that are activated, social media savvy, know how to raise money in many savvy ways from the masses, etc. But because of the failed structure that we have within the party, where seniority reigns, even if the seniors within that party choose not to develop themselves into the future. As an example, we have a Bernie Sanders that's much older than Chuck Schumer, but Bernie has been able to mobilize in such a manner that he can attract young and old. Why? Because he gets what he doesn't know himself. He surrounds himself with those who are doing things the new way. But Chuck Schumer doesn't give a damn when he says, I got reports of what was done on social media. Damn it. Look up on the social media yourself. You should be in your office looking at your social media to see how things are being elevated, etc., and doing your own as well. You know, you sit down and you watch Bernie. Bernie is on the phone tweeting. Even the current president of the United States even as he sends his misspelled, grammatically incorrect stuff, he has learned how to move with his masses. And too many of the older Democrats, they refuse to do that. And henceforth, where we are, when Alexandria Ocasio Cortez was running for the position, we give it to an older guy that isn't up for the job. The same thing with the communication that in the House where uh, uh, Crockett was running, we give it to an older woman who doesn't have the savvy that Crockett has. That is the problem. We've always talked about the media, but the media, in as much as they're pretty darn bad, they need to have something to work with. And with these older guys that refuse to bring themselves up into the 2100s, 21st century, what we have is two communications gap. A communication gap that is unable to meet the people, and a communication gap that is unable to use the press as its own device. That has to change. And until that change, we'll continue to seed the messaging to the other side. We'll continue to seed that messaging to those who lie. Absolutely. So, hey guys, if you need to send me an email or a link or something, please send it to info@politicsdoneright.com. Info@politicsdoneright.com. Paul Fleming, I went to look into my Facebook stuff. I didn't see that video. So why don't you just send me the link to info@politicsdoneright.com, or if you can put it in the chat somewhere, that would be fine as well. I want to give a big shout out to Sandy Bassett on the on Substack, who gave us a list of all the Social Security, well, of most of the Social Security offices that are closing, and she said there are more to come. Catherine Hill, I want to say, get the word out to all those people who voted for the destroyer, is what she said. Sandy Bassett also says, wreck it, tell people it doesn't work, then privatize it. That's what they're trying to do. Same thing they're doing to the national parks, forests, and monuments. You're absolutely right about that. Let's see, Mary. Let's see. Yes, Egberto, save Social Security from Catherine Hill. It's look. Let me just tell you, it's not very easy to read the Substack messages, but we have a whole bunch of people on Substack as well. Just want to kind of call you out on that. All right. Let's see where we're at now. We're pretty much done with all the videos. If anybody wants to give a quick call, a quick one before I do my ask, you can do that at 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. I'll hold that open for another minute or so. Feel free to give a call to that number. Let's see what else we've got here that I haven't been able to read. I just want to thank all of you guys in the chat for keeping a very active and civil conversation in the chat. That's what we are in for. Everybody can talk. Just be civil with how you talk. Egberto, selective persecution. You'll never see police officer frisk a suit on Wall Street for cocaine. Yet they are some of the biggest users of cocaine as we know it, Michael Rudnin. And if no call in, there's plenty of chat to read out, which is what I'm doing, my dear brother. You notice how Michael Rudnin keep me on my toes? He's like, Egberto, if you don't have a call, make sure to read some of our messages. To which I say, thank you, my brother. I will. I absolutely will. Let's see what else. Paul Fleming says, I sent you the video. Break in. Republican State Senator Justin Elkhorn has been arrested for soliciting a minor for prostitution after filming a self-righteous video accusing Democrats of dubious act. The Minnesota GOP has asked him to step down. Life comes at you fast. You remember what I said yesterday? When you're pointing that finger, there are four pointing back. Lee the Bearcat doesn't think the thumb is pointing back. He doesn't have my thumb because my thumb is also pointing back. All right, let's see what else we got here. What else have we got that needs to be read? I'm scrolling up. Oh, our brother Chuck Pinocchio says to remember that Social Security is not an entitlement. Social Security is a earned benefit. Thank you, Chuck Pinocchio, for pointing that out. Joe says to call the science of climate emergency ridiculous, climate alarmist. Program propaganda is to saying that a smoke fire detector is bad fake technology promoted by hysterical agendas engaged in fraud. I've got the smartest. I've got the smartest people. I was going to read a passage out of my book, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, based on something that happened with DEI. But I don't have the time to read it. But I just want to mention a little something about the article. I'm not going to read it, but I want to tell you just something. I'm going to take 30 seconds to do this. When I left NASA to build a system for Chinese company, a login system for Chinese company. I designed all the software. Jerry designed the hardware. We formed a corporation, and before we formed the corporation, we were going to work for the guy who actually found the Chinese company that wanted the contract. And not knowing anything, he just looked at Jerry, a good friend of mine, a white guy, and myself, and he said, "This is how he offered us to pay." And this was back in the in the 80s, so you understand that the amount of money is a lot different now. He looked at Jerry and say, "Jerry, I'll give you 60,000. Egberto, I'll give you 40,000." All I can tell you right now is Jerry turned red as a cherry. Two reasons why. I was making more than Jerry at NASA, and I was more senior to Jerry at NASA. But Jerry was worth 60,000 to this guy, and I was worth 40,000. This was in the 80s. Just want you to see the kinds of things that I have about 30, 40 of those stories in my book, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean. For all of those people who think when we talk, we're race baiting or we're just saying things. It is amazing. Anyhow, love you guys. Look, let's go ahead and do this, folks. The purpose of this program and all the blogs we write and the articles we write and the books we write and the activism we do on the outside is to ensure that we get the progressive message out there to flood the zone, like the right wing is paying a whole lot of people to do right now. That's what we do, our part to flood the zone. Just the difference is with truth. The difference is with engagement of people. And I don't mean just our side, but I mean engagement with all, as well as to make sure that we make the realities known. This is done completely voluntarily with the expectation that those people who see the value of what we're doing will support the program for us to exist. So in doing so, what I'm asking those of you who watch, enjoy, etc., to please support the program however you can. And one of the ways to support the program is via Patreon. And to get to Patreon is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. But what I'm asking most of you to do, those of you that are on Substack right now or elsewhere, to please become paid subscribers of our Substack. You will be subsidizing a whole lot of stuff. If you want to see what we're doing, go to politicsdoneright.com/info. That gives you all the platforms that we make sure to have stuff on. So again, I ask that you support the program, and you can support the program by becoming paid subscribers of our newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. You guys know how I end this baby. I am what?
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.